afternoon. I hope everyone's well today. Thank you for watching. Did anyone ever wonder why we have a king and not Queen Anne? Did anyone wonder why King Charles automatically inherited the throne when Elizabeth II died? It didn't have to be this way, and I want to explain why. And we're going to discuss two linked but separate concepts of equity and equality. You'll never see a millionaire black man and a millionaire white man fighting. And you'll never see that because they're both millionaires and they've got no reason to fight because they're in the elite class and they have no need to fight because they're both millionaires. It's as simple as that. And that's because they have equality, not equity. Equity is about addressing historical wrongs, which is why you'll see the race grifters. When you see them on TV, they will always talk about equity, not equality. We have equity in the UK, which is why we have two-tier policing, because the scale is on the scale of justice is on one side, and it's not for the native population; it's for the minority population. The first thing I want to go into is the line of succession and the change in the line of succession that was done in 2011/12 by the then Prime Minister David Cameron and agreed by the 15 other Commonwealth realms that had Elizabeth II as head of state. So we'll get into this first of all. Prime Minister David Cameron led the process in coordination with the governments of the Commonwealth realms. The Queen was consulted, she gave her consent and later granted royal assent, but she did not initiate the change in keeping with her role as a constitutional monarch. This preserved both the constitutional propriety and dignity of the Crown while enabling meaningful reform. Now, what actually changed in 2011/2012 was the male primogeniture, which meant that in the monarchy, the male, if there's a male heir, would inherit irrespective of whether they have a older sister or not. They changed it to the ultimate primogeniture, which actually means that the oldest child, regardless of whether they're male or female, will inherit the throne. It doesn't make much difference at the moment because Prince William is obviously a boy and he's got no sisters, and his eldest child is a boy as well. So it doesn't necessarily make much difference there. But that was about equality, not equity. And this is where it gets interesting. Okay, to initiate the... let's have a look now. The interesting thing I want to get to is that if the elites were really interested in equity, which they preached to the masses, this would extend to the private organisations like the Garrett Club down in London, which recently changed its entry criteria so internal members can refer females. But the exclusivity of the establishment is still intact. See what I mean? It is equality for the elites, equity for the masses. Alright? So we'll get into this bit now. To initiate the process, a prospective member must be proposed and seconded by current members, with the name then posted in the membership book and described as a leather-bound volume. The interested members must also gather a number of supporting signatures from other members, enough to move forward with consideration. The candidate undergoes further scrutiny. They may be invited to dine at the club, for which their application goes before the candidates committee and general committee, 24 members who vote in a secret ballot. The club maintains a strict selection ethos that it would be better that 10 objectionable men should be excluded than one terrible bore should be admitted. So that's how the Garrett Club actually works and maintains its exclusive membership, even though they've now allowed females into it. And it's the same with all of these institutions. I'm just using the Monarchy and the Garrett Club in London as two examples. The Prime Minister in 2011 had a choice. He could have made it equitable, and he could have reversed the male primogeniture for the monarchy, and he could have proposed female Primogeniture instead, which would be the girl, regardless of age, inherited before the boy. That would be equity, not equality. The reason why they don't preach equality for the masses, but they promote equity for the masses, is because it protects their power structures. Equity for the masses, equality for the elites. This gets to the double standard. For ordinary people, talk of equity, redistribution, correction of historic injustices, think slavery, empire, whatnot, professional policies for marginalised groups, or preferential policies for marginalised groups. For the elites, preference for equality, formal neutrality, gender, race, balance at the top, but within the exclusive circles and established structures. That distinction isn't accidental. Equity at the mass level doesn't threaten elite control. It reinforces it by reframing the system on a fair or progressive without touching the inheritance of wealth, access, or influence at the top. So the next time somebody says to you, we need to be a more equitable society, tell them they're talking out the rear end. What we need is an equality before the law, not equity. All right? When the race grifters go on TV and they talk about equity, they're all about a justification for mass migration. They're looking for a justification for a substitute population being brought into the United Kingdom to address historic imbalances worldwide. But they don't challenge the power structures that are doing this yet. This is the gamble and the mistake that the elites are making. When you talk about mass migration into the United Kingdom or any Western country, they automatically assume that they're going to maintain their position in power once a vocal minority, a marginalised class, becomes a majority. That's why I think personally all of these equality laws, like the Equality Act 2010 or the Race Relations Act in 1968, they will be reversed if we ever get to a stage where the majority population becomes a minority and the minority population becomes a majority. Because they're there to keep the plebs, they're there to keep me and you in line, they're there to keep us in check so we don't step out of line. As soon as those laws don't become useful anymore, they'll be removed. This is just my opinion. As always, your mileage may vary. Now, if you like this video and you think I'm onto something, give me a like and subscribe. Comment below. Have a good day. And you let me know, would Queen Anne have been better? She's the hardest working royal. She's a seasoned pro. She's well liked. She didn't even get kidnapped in the 70s. The kidnapper tried to bring her back and ransom her for money for the NHS. And she said, not bloody likely. So, a lot of people think she would have been preferable to the current monarch. Are you one of those people? Do you think David Cameron should have made it possible for her to inherit? Because if they changed to female primogeniture, it could have been retroactive, so they could have actually snubbed Charles and included Anne instead. Again, all this is moot at this point. We are where we are. But it's interesting to unpack these things now and again, so I'll see you in the next video.